This morning, I'm going to talk about forms, and I don't remember how I titled that, but it was something like how forms release and confine you. Was that it?
Yes.
Yeah. So forms. There's, this is a form. Without a solid form, you can't hold water. You have trouble getting it, drinking it. So we have a form for that. It's a very simple idea. But forms are always releasing us and confining us. When you drink the water, you're releasing the water, of course. Very simple idea, but it's so misunderstood. If you, for instance, we do really strong forms, as you were just participating in or practicing in or being subjugated to, which is how it might feel the first time you come in here. It's like, what is this? What is this? Why all the monkeying around? And so you are, however you look at it, the people actually practicing the form, if they've been doing it for hundreds and hundreds of times, are not confined by the form anymore. You are actually more confined by the form by coming in and reacting to it, because it's like you see it as a wall or you see it as a door. I'm not going through that door. It's a form. Anytime you resist anything, your mind sets up a form. That form in Buddhism is called ignorance. Ignorance form. It's called ignorance. So what you're doing is you're basically saying, I'm not going there. I'm not going there. And you have a right. You have a sovereign right to do that. That's the interesting thing about human beings, is you actually are going to be the one who, for lack of a better word, and I hate this word, I just hate it. You could ask questions about this. This word disgusts me. Decide. You're going to decide what to do, because the presumptions around the word decide are so powerful that we don't really look into it deeply enough to see that it's not exactly a decision about this and that. It is a decision based on not being able to see very clearly. If you see really clearly what's in front of you, you won't have to decide. It's obvious. It's like seeing a bonfire over here and a beautiful garden over here. You go in the beautiful garden. But sometimes the confusion about what that is so intense that we tend to go into the thing that's actually going to hurt us rather than go into the thing that is going to be a supportive and healthy and purifying for us. So, and in Buddhism, as in many spiritual paths, there are really strong constructs or forms, so that when you bring your body, mind complex, call it a human being, into this form, then the awareness, if you actually observe the form and endeavor to bring yourself in line with that form, then the awareness around that starts to become liberated. It's like it's very difficult to bring into concepts to be able to explain. It just about has to be done. I can tell you that I've practiced a lot of mantras or done a lot of repetitive practices. And one of the things I found out from doing that, I mean, I'm talking about a lot, not a few hundred. One of the things I found out is you can't really repeat anything. The only way you find that out is by trying to do that. You have to sit down and try to repeat that over and over and over and over. I'm not saying that if you don't have something that you're repeating every day, that you can't have some insight into, well, breakfast is a certain form. We sit down and we have breakfast, and in our culture, we do it a certain way, or it has a certain commonality. And we don't do that exactly the same way every day. But if you try to bring your mind into a form, your body-mind situation into a form over and over and over again, you'll see that it's never quite the same. It's always different. That's an amazing discovery about forms. And about the nature of awareness itself. So forms, like I was saying, forms release you and confine you. when I say they confine you, when you walk into a situation where you are stopped by a form, sometimes our beliefs, which is a form, our belief about something is so strong that it doesn't allow any further investigation. You might peek through and say, not for me. Because what you see is partial evidence about any given situation. It's not the totality. Seeing that you can't see the totality is seeing totality. If you don't understand, ask questions. You'll find out that I don't understand either. Different kind of understanding. Insight or intuition is a different kind of understanding than just information about plus and minus or true and false. That's why in the talk that I gave last week, I think it was belief and disbelief or something like that. I was talking about don't necessarily believe something and don't disbelieve it. Don't do anything with anything that arises, but don't stop looking at it. So in other words, it's because as soon as you believe something, it halts. Like I said, nothing repeats. So everything is constantly in flux, including everything that arises in your mind. So if you start to believe something, there's almost an invisible form that comes up. You're creating, when you believe something, you're creating your own personal bias. Sometimes called an opinion, sometimes called prejudice. It's really intense. And if it shuts down on the sovereignty or the value of each person, whoever they are. In some forms of Buddhism and other practices, not just Buddhism, but a particular form in Tantric or the Vajrayana or Tibetan Buddhism, they have really, really strong, intense forms, and they're very much about repeat it over and over again. And something about doing that starts to liberate the awareness from the attachment to forms, from actually being glued to it, thinking this is right, this is wrong. It's an amazing practice, awareness practice. But the other form that is so simple, that the one that I teach and recommend that we all do, is to take that which is in motion. Your body, speech, mind, everything that's going on that's in motion. Even slightly, just the slightest movement, like my hands, to hold that all still. You can use this mudra or hand position. You can do this. The important thing is to hold everything still that you can, without being without going overboard and requiring that you have certain standards of stillness. But to hold very, very still and watch what continues to move. And what continues to move is our confusion and our mind and the way we keep making up crap, making things up. Anything that appears, we think something about it. Something else, that goes away, we think something about that. Or we add things on, or we're questioning about the situation and expecting some kind of an answer. So the form is to hold very still, watch what continues to move, and add nothing to it. Don't add extra ideas, forms on top of it or cover it up, but see fundamentally what it is. And what eventually arises is insight about the way you personally create more problems for yourself. Have you noticed sometimes you can just be sitting in a car, going into a grocery store, or taking a walk or something like that, and sometimes there's just really strong negative kind of feelings for no reason. You can't find any source for it. What the mind often does is, instead of just being in the openness, the formlessness of not knowing what that is and allow that feeling to arise and do whatever it does, instead we put something on it. Well, it's because of this. It's because of that. With no proof. Just we start to jump to conclusions. Well, if he hadn't said that to me, or if this wasn't happening, or if my dad was still here, or if my cat hadn't passed away. Not funny. That's something that can really disturb people. All of those things, all the little stories we spin about this, instead of just being with what arises so that your awareness can sink down into that situation and see what it is for yourself. Not something to believe, not something to create a form about, not something to take apart. It's a fascinating situation for you when you find out that you actually don't have to buy into anything, including your own thought patterns. I often say to people, don't believe your thoughts. But as soon as I say that, I will also say, don't disbelieve your thoughts. Don't do anything with them. Allow them to come up. And if you do nothing with them, they'll take whatever position they need to take relative to your, it's like when we start to do something with our thinking patterns, when they arise with it and having it based on some kind of agitation or hope or fear or anything like that, we're meddling with it. Just like we tend to meddle with other people. Oh, you shouldn't do that. You should break up with him. Blah, blah, blah. As if we know. And so by actually observing what arises and what passes away in our mind, we're able to see that there's a very spacious quality that is our mind. And by seeing that, we begin to see the way in which we create problems for ourselves. Any questions at this point? Sokuzan.
What is a decision? What does it mean to make a decision?
So conventionally, the idea of a decision about something, or either or, should I do this or should I do that? It's a setup. Don't do that to yourself. You just create more pain. I don't know what to do about that. And as soon as these words come out of your mouth, you're making problems. This particular phrase, a part of me wants to do this, and a part of me wants to do that. It's like you're telling, if you're talking to me, you're telling me that you're deliberately dividing yourself up. Don't do it. When I say don't do it, you might not be able to understand what I'm saying without doing a lot of sitting and watching yourself divide, picking and choosing, picking this, picking that. I'm not saying that you shouldn't decide to do something and decide not to do something else, but it should be based on awareness and not necessarily on what? Opinions. Opinions are worthless. This is what an opinion looks like. And we may not know if it's our own opinion, then we just kind of think it's the truth. We just haven't convinced everybody else yet. But you can actually live without any opinions. And that would be a good way to find out what's happening up here with this person. Well, don't you have opinions? You could ask me that. And I would say what? Yes and no. It's not a matter of going one way or the other way. It's a matter of awareness. If you're deciding something out of your awareness has been so prioritized that you can see very clearly what's happening with you emotionally, psychologically, intellectually, how your mind is actually operating. Then when you look at a fork in the road, you won't have to make a choice. It'll be very clear the direction you go towards the garden, not towards the bonfire. Unless you're operating out of a vow. And the vow we function out of here, if someone is fully ordained or even lay ordained, and that is to be with all things. So you might have to go into a bonfire. If you don't understand, you should ask questions. Yes, sir.
How much form should someone include in their practice?
Very good question. You should decide. And traditionally, back through centuries and centuries, the teaching person or the lineage or the particular structure has decided for you. That is changing, not only with this old man here, but all over the place. It's starting to change. You need to decide. On the other hand, probably going to need some help, because otherwise your decision would be based on self-centeredness and on spiritual materialism, or trying to use spiritual practices to get somewhere. You could say, well, shouldn't you have a spiritual practice to get happy? Maybe. I asked that for you. More? Yep.
How can we see if that decision is based off self-centeredness?
Don't make any decision till you have to. Wait. Don't make it on Wednesday. Wait till Friday. Wait. Patience. It's a totally misunderstood word. It's not really waiting for something. It's just, you're just here, and you're not spinning around inside of your head. what should I do? I don't know. That's coming up. I'm going to have to make a decision. I need to decide now so I can stop worrying about this. No, you don't. You don't have to do that. Take a chance. Take a chance. Yes.
How does taking a vow, how come someone might have to walk into a bonfire if they take a vow?
When I'm saying that is that your decision, insofar as it is a decision, it won't be based on just your own self-centeredness, on what you want, how you want to live your life. You'll be taking into consideration everyone around you, the environment around you in its totality, because your awareness is so strong that you see what's happening. You know what's happening with your friends, your relatives, your fellow practitioners. If you happen to be a Buddhist, if you've received this kind of a vow, then you would be. Then you function in terms of the welfare of the big picture. So that might require you walking into a bonfire. In other words, into a difficult, I don't mean suicide, but I'm saying into a situation that really is going to be pretty painful. But to do anything but that would be letting people down. To do anything but that would be, it just wouldn't be appropriate. You have to do that. Yeah, it happens over here all the time. It's starting to happen where you're at, meaning you. That you begin to operate out of what's going to be beneficial for everyone. And you don't do it through thinking. You do it through awareness. Awareness is not thinking. In most people, the awareness is bonded to the thinking process. This is called ego. It's called, well, what do you think about what I'm thinking? Well, I don't know. What do you think about what I'm thinking that you're thinking? Well, I'm not sure. Could you say more? Well, I'm thinking about that you're thinking that you want to know what I'm thinking about what you're thinking. It's supposed to be funny, not funny. So, but we really do that. We really go around in circles. You can notice a little bit of it in a conversation at Starbucks or wherever you happen to be at. You'll be talking with someone. So, what do you think? I don't know. What do you think about what I just said? So what do you think about what I'm thinking? But it actually can get stacked up, so it gets quite funny to someone who is actually here rather than somebody who is wound up in their thought patterns. When you're wound up in your thought patterns, you think some things are right and some things are wrong. Not true. I'm not saying some things aren't very painful and disrespectful to people and their, what I've been calling sovereignty. Stay out of people's business. You don't even know what your own business is, and you're already meddling with somebody else. Well, you shouldn't, or you should, or we should, or we shouldn't. Don't do that. When I say don't do it, I don't know. Do what you need to do. You might have to do that. You might have to do that for another 10 years, 15 years, 15 days. And then you'll see, I really need to see what's going on here rather than constantly going out into the world and seeing who's right, who's wrong. So as far as a form, how much form you should have, the way I do this with people who want to come so far as to talk to me about their meditation practice, I talk to them to see what's happening. And depending on what's happening, I change their form. The way it's taught here, you heard the meditation instructions, very simple. Sit down, have all the senses open, in particular the eyes, hold very still and watch what moves. It's that simple. See what comes through each one of the senses. And this strengthens the seeing part of the mind, the witnessing part, the awareness part, not the thinking part. The thinking part is already muscle bound. Keep your weightlifter in the back of the bus. You need to have some really strong thinking going on. He or she will be ready to come right up and help you. But lead with your awareness. If your awareness is in front, form and emptiness, forms and no form will always be appropriate to whatever you're doing, because you're leading with things as they arise. Nothing is ever repeated anywhere. It just looks like it is.
You gave an example of how reacting to the forms is confining.
What did I say about it?
Something about coming in here and
Yes.
And thinking, oh, this,
Yes.
I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
And choosing. Can a positive reaction be equally as confining?
Yes. Any reaction at all. I don't even use the word reaction unless I'm talking about somebody who's reacting. William.
Discussing form, Does that coincide with, where's it? When the arrow points meet head on, what does that have to do with the power skill? Does that go together?
Yes.
Because the forms are never the same each time you do it?
They're never the same, and and I don't know the motivation of the person in the 9th century. Was it Tozan? Tozan Rilkai. Long, I don't remember his Chinese name, but anyway, my understanding of reading that, what he's trying to say is this is a really exceptional situation where things are seen without the relative plus and minus, life and death. All that is, you just transcend that. You're still in the world, you're still here, but you're no longer operate out of fear or out of skill. You function with other people. That's confusing because sometimes, especially if you're in a position like I'm in, you're kind of the authority guy. And I work hard at being as intimidating as I can. How am I doing? Okay, good. So sometimes when people expect me to, we had a situation with a video situation, I'm not going to go into detail, but had a situation where I say, go ahead and do this, or we talk about it and say, yeah, go ahead and set that up. And then that happens. And then I come back and say, let's change this into, let's do this and this. And then there's kind of a misunderstanding. Would you want to comment on that? How would you describe it?
I guess the way I understand it is that it has to be laid out before it can be seen how it needs to change.
Yeah, and so I do things if I'm in the position to do that mutually. Same thing with the meditation interview. We talk. You say you're going through this or this or this, and I relate to you where you're at insofar as I'm able. And the interview that I have with you, the talk I have with you might, not only might, but will be totally different than anyone else I'm talking to. So there's no kind of a formula. Everybody gets the same thing. On the other hand, to begin doing this meditation, everybody starts out in the same kind of situation, and then each person, I would work with that person individually, and I would have no idea what I was going to say. So in this case here, I asked Chazan, who is the Eno, or the head monk here at the temple, to set up a certain situation, making a video for someone who is a practitioner in Paris, Caroline Mabi, and he did that and did a very good job. And he did exactly the parts that I didn't want to really say anything. I wanted him to set that up so that he did that for me. He's done this for him hundreds and hundreds of times. So I wanted to allow him to do that, and then he set it up. Then I came in, and I'm very visual. So I came in and thought about making some changes in it so that it looks different. But he did the part that I do okay. I don't do as good as he does. Not a compliment. You know it's not a compliment, right?
It's never a compliment.
Yeah. Question, Michael?
Can you talk more about the difference between awareness and thinking?
I can.
That's one that I find intriguing, because I guess as humans we are.
Yeah, but you're going to have to let me answer it.
Okay, well let me just finish just briefly.
Yeah, but then you have to ask the question again at the end.
I will,
because I'm losing it as I follow you.
You already lost it?
Yeah, I know what you asked.
Okay, what is the difference between awareness and thinking?
There's a difference. Yeah, there is.
And what is the difference?
And the difference is that awareness isn't susceptible to ownership. It doesn't belong to anyone. Awareness arises, it belongs to everyone. You partake of it and you use that kind of energy. But thinking process is very specific to your body-mind complex. And the thinking, we want to protect ourselves. We want to advance ourselves. We want to do something with ourselves, be successful, get stuff, passion, aggression, ignorance. We crave certain things. We don't want other things. When the awareness is king, in the case of men, and queen, in the case of women, that means the awareness is, here's thinking, and the awareness has, through practice, has moved out in front of the thinking process. The thinking process is still there. It works fine. But for most people who haven't trained, not everyone, some people are born with their awareness way out in front. Whatever kind of karma is going on there it shows up that way. But if you're, when the awareness, or that which is aware, like aware of sights, aware of sounds, aware of colors, aware of tastes, smells. That which is aware is stuck to the thinking. In other words, you can't just see something without having an opinion on it. You can't just experience something through any one of the sense fields, in particular hearing and thinking. You can't receive something without adding a bunch of things to it, thinking about it, what it means, what it is. And it's possible to actually begin to see that those are not separate on one level, but are completely separate on another level. So it's always about awareness. Yes.
And awareness is non-judgmental? I mean, is that fair to say?
It's not that it's non-judgmental. It's that if it does take a position, which seems like judgmental, it's seeing as much evidence as possible. It looks out for the welfare of everyone in totality, as far as the eye can see, as far as the ear, as far as your mind can go. It's called compassion. Compassion arises out of emptiness. So when there's emptiness, then what starts to arise is all the suffering that is happening for everybody in the world, but not some kind of airy-fairy feeling for it. It's not really a feeling. It's just an understanding that's very deep, that you really need to help other people. You need to really put other people ahead of yourself. This doesn't mean going without food. It doesn't mean being a fool, although you could do a few foolish things, wouldn't hurt. But it means putting that out there, so you're really considering other people's welfare as far as you can. It's really difficult to do that because people don't really want your help. What they want is they want you to give them what they want. They don't really want you to give them what you need. And if you don't give them especially with a teaching person, if you don't give him or her the benefit of the doubt, then you don't get any help. Just like if you go to if you're ill and you go to the doctor, you try to tell the doctor what's wrong with you. You tell him what he'll ask you, or she'll ask you a few questions. But then if you try to diagnose yourself, since you don't really know how your digestive tract works, or how many glomeruli you have in your kidneys. I love to use that word. But your doctor, or what's a kidney doctor name? A nephrologist, he or she knows about that. So that's why you go to them. You don't go to them and tell them a bunch of stuff. Is that helpful?
Yeah.
Good.
Ann Walters from Benton Harbor.
I know her.
She asks, what is the difference between belief and trust and faith?
Okay, so belief is something you just think it's true. You just believe it. You think that's true with no real proof. If you have the proof, then it's not something you believe. It's a fact. You don't have to believe facts. It's the sun is out. I believe the sun is out. No, you don't have to do that. The sun is out, right? It's not a bright street light out there. So have you ever wake up, you've been in for a nap and you wake up and you don't know whether it's evening or morning?
When I used to drink.
Huh? When you used to drink? That's kind of artificial awareness there. Drinking. Artificial. So the difference between faith, trust, and belief. So belief is taking something for granted. Trust is spending some time looking at a situation and doing and seeing that it's going to be necessary for you to maybe not completely trust someone else. You should really only trust yourself. Your primary. There's a slogan in Atisha's 7 Points of Mind Training, part of the Buddhist teachings out of 1,000 years ago, where he says, of the two, keep the principal witness. So of the two, this person and all these people, trust this person first. But also don't hesitate to examine the thought processes that come up that might be based on fear rather than actual insight. When you operate out of fear, you're just deliberately clouding things up. So trust, I would say, if you run into a situation where you need to trust someone else, I would say it this way. Don't actually trust, don't turn the whole thing over to them, but give them the benefit of the doubt. In other words, go along with them until something shows up that is really not going to work for you. That is, so And then the last one is faith. And faith is seems to look like belief, but I think it arises, at least in our tradition, in other traditions that would be described differently, but in our tradition, it is a way of giving something the benefit of the doubt without constantly checking in. Benefit of the doubt, you might have to keep evaluating every now and then. You might reevaluate a little bit where you're at with it. But faith would be, once you see it, bring all of your awareness to it, see what it is, look as closely as you can. And then if this is what you need to do, then do it and stop checking back to see whether it's true or not. In other words, when I say, I'm not saying doubts don't arise, but handle the doubts as they are rather than something else to be afraid of and react to. Reaction doesn't work. It's always, there's a running away quality to reaction. So it's like when people, a good example of that is in our tradition, one of the ways we put people under pressure there as far as awareness practice is when someone starts practicing and they want to go deeper, they eventually they see that they could possibly ordain or ask to receive vows formally. And what we do there is someone asks me, I tell them no. I might depending on the person, I might tell them no as many as, I don't think I've ever got to a half a dozen, but I've been close. How many times did I say no to you? A couple. I never said no to you.
You said no, and then you asked me the next day if I wanted to receive Jukai.
So, I needed his help really bad, so I gave him a pass. So not always so. You don't want to know what's going to happen next. I found that the longer I function as a teaching person, and I've been studying this myself, been a student, I'm still a student for over 40 years. I find that I really need to trust people on one level, but on the other hand, don't do it for someone. This is a difficult path, so you shouldn't do it unless you have to. I say that over and over again. Don't do anything unless you have to. And so that some people, might be in my opinion or my idea that it would help them if they received vows and formally became a Buddhist. And but I probably would never say that to them. That would be disrespectful because you need to do your own path. There's not a advertising going on. So if you come in this room, you give me permission to say what's been going on, say for me to say something to you or teach. And then one of the ways you can make this teaching go deeper is ask me as hard a question as you can. And see what happens with that. Then if it needs to be a question you're sincere about, go down in there. I've been, my credential is I've been looking at my mind and functioning as a meditation teacher for a long time. So I've talked to a lot of people, but don't do anything unless you have to. And that includes becoming a Buddhist. Don't do anything. Wait. Meditate. That's what I would say. If you're going to do anything, at least hold still a lot and look at what your mind keeps mixing up and see that you're actually on a merry-go-round. Seeing the thing. You're just changing horses on what are those plastic things that are horse-shaped? Those are not real horses. Those are fake. But we keep looking for the one that's just right. We keep going, well, maybe if I rode backwards, that would be better. Maybe if I need to get off the horse and sit in one of those little chairs. Has everybody here been on a merry-go-round? Anybody has not been in a merry-go-round? Says a lot for merry-go-rounds. Yes.
Kevin Townley from New York.
Kevin Townley.
He asks, speaking of belief and truth and the mind training slogans, can you explain regard all dharmas as dreams?
Yes. Regard all dharmas as dreams, Kevin in New York is asking about. So it's all dharmas, whatever is arising, whatever's coming up in your life or in your dreams, but anywhere, to regard that is unreal. And so we're not saying it's not there. We are saying that it is insubstantial in its fundamental nature. Just like one of the ways that you can demonstrate this a little bit is, have you noticed that when you're dreaming, you don't know about this world? You're in a dream and you believe it. You actually are in the dream and you're going along. Maybe you're not even the same sex. Maybe you're someone else. Maybe you've dreamt you're a rabbit. Maybe you keep having the same dream over and over again. But when you're in that dream, you don't remember. You're not saying, I've got to keep having this dream over and over again, unless you do. And then this is called a lucid dream. The awareness is getting stronger and stronger in the dream state where you start to realize there's something, I'm actually in a state that is different than what I'm usually in this everyday situation. The Tibetans have a saying that the dream you have at night is a sample dream. It's just showing you what a dream is. This is the real dream. This is the one you have to awaken from, this physical world, awaken from this. If you wake up, if you awaken from this, then you're a lot more lighthearted about everything. You could even say joyful.
Speaking of,
That's what I'm going to talk about at the daily Dharma gathering, which we have to stop now.
maybe one more question.
One more question, anyone? Melon, you have a question? No? What's your question?
The moon that sits here.
What?
The moon that sits there.
Yeah, I noticed that. Do you want to know why?
Because it's glass.
Because it's what?
Because it's glass.
It's glass? Oh. Yeah, I think you're right. Okay, thank you, Melanie. Okay, now we can,
We'll dedicate the merit in the back of your morning service yellow books. We do have a donation box out in the hallway. We appreciate your help. And online, you're welcome to donate online as well.
May the merit of this penetrate into all places so that we and every sentient being together can realize the Buddha's way. Jiho san shi shifu shi son bu sa moko sa Moko puja uromi. The 10 directions, the 3 worlds, all Buddhas, all venerable ones, Bodhisattvas, Mahasattvas, the great Prajna Paramita,